welcome to today's live. I'm so excited to talk to you. My name is Tara, Christian wife, homeschool mom of almost 11 children, 7 weeks. Literally today, the baby will be out and in my arms in 7 weeks today. So exciting because we don't know if it's a boy or a girl. I keep it a surprise every time because I've only ever had C-sections. This will be my 10th C-section because we had twins. So super excited. Today, I'm going to talk, though, about something that I walk through, many moms walk through in the early years of motherhood, stay-at-home motherhood, which is loneliness. It can come as a bit of a surprise when you're at home, you're with your kids, especially if you have a heart to embrace children as a blessing, especially speaking as a Christian mom. And all of a sudden you start to experience the profound emotion and experience of loneliness. So I'm going to dive into that today. Real quick before I do, I want to tell you about this week's new giveaway. It starts today. I'm going to be running a challenge in a couple of weeks, which is really like a mini course just broken up over a couple of days. So excited for it. It's going to be called the Declutter for Christmas Challenge. So I'm a pretty naturally organized person, and like some people are gifted intellectually, some people are gifted athletically or artistically. We all have our areas of gifting that the Lord has put in us and that we've also cultivated, right? Through life, through just the school of life and hard work and trial and error. So one of my areas of genius, if you will, is organization. And I'm nesting hardcore because 7 weeks out from having baby number 11. So you put those two things together, and I am like the declutter queen right now. My engines are all gunning to get my house decluttered for Christmas. Because, in a big family, when you have 3+ kids, stuff starts to come in, generous family, generous friends, just people drop stuff off sometimes at your door as they're like getting rid of their stuff and dump it on you because, hey, you've got a ton of kids. I'm sure you've got tons of space. Right? So the declutter challenge is coming up the 3rd week of November, which ties into this week's giveaway. I'm going to be posting in the Big Family Moms group how you can actually win one of my mini courses on how to organize your home, where I really give it all and how I do it every day with almost 11 kids in my home so that my home is safe, it's sane, and it's very simple. It's very doable because I don't have all that time to keep organized. I may be good at it, so it makes me a really good teacher, but to maintain it, that's a skill. So if it's not natural for you to have an organized home, that's totally okay, right? Not everybody is born with it and not everybody learns it, but I can teach you and help you, show you all my simple tips and tricks. So you could actually win that course by sharing the challenge giveaway. I'm going to post, like I said, in the Big Family Moms group, a little an image. So you could invite people to come if they'd like to join the challenge. Great. Just by giving the invitation, you will be entered into this week's giveaway. And I'm going to run this giveaway for 2 weeks because I want to give away 2 of these courses. So I'm going to do one this week and another next week. So yay, organization. It's going to be so good. You'll have your house decluttered not only for Christmas, but for American Thanksgiving. I'm in Canada, so I call it American Thanksgiving. Let's get into today's topic. Just a little more sober. Loneliness for stay-at-home moms, big family moms, 3+ kids. During those early years, I remember, like it was yesterday, having 3 kids under 2 because we were blessed with twins after my firstborn daughter. So she was only 2, like barely 2, toilet training 2 when the twins came along. And then 16 months later, all of a sudden I've got 4 kids under 3. So I remember those early years, and I was going through a lot. There's a whole story surrounding that journey of what God was doing in my heart when all of a sudden I went from being like a full-time student and a career-driven woman, and I had like this whole bright future ahead, and all of a sudden I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom living in Canada, and all I do is dishes and diapers all day. And the big highlight of the day is, what are we going to have for supper? And that was a massive readjustment for me emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. And I began to experience very acutely, not just a sense of like sort of stir craziness, which can happen when you don't like the big highlight of the day is to go to the park and making supper. But it was really like a sense of loneliness. If I had to put a word on it now, looking back, I was like, I'm lonely. I don't get together with my girlfriends anymore. I don't really have much of a girlfriends anymore. I was the first to have children in my family. So like I didn't even have a sibling to relate to. In my friend circle, there weren't really other moms, or if there were, we didn't always connect, and taking 3 kids or 4 kids out on a good day to go have a play date with your mom is sometimes easier said than done, right? When you're working around schedules and nap times and just their schedule and transportation. We didn't have a second vehicle, so my husband had the only vehicle. So yeah, the loneliness got big, and it started to kind of fill me up, and I could feel it. I just didn't want to talk about it because, to make matters worse, I felt guilty about the loneliness. I was like, I should be so happy. I'm so blessed. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had enough on my husband's lean income that I could stay at home. But if I was honest, in the dead of the night, when it was just me and God and everyone was asleep, I was lonely in motherhood. And I'm surrounded by these wonderful children who I love dearly. I have a wonderful husband who I love dearly. I'm a born again Christian. I have so much to be grateful for. And then here I am with this sort of secret sadness inside. Maybe not like a depression level kind of thing, but definitely loneliness. So, what happened? What changed? Because I'm not struggling with that anymore now. So, definitely something changed. Well, a couple things changed, and I want to share this with you today to encourage you where you're at. If you're feeling that way too, or if you start to go through it in another season of life, being a big family stay-at-home mom. One is to know that it's okay to have mixed emotions about motherhood. Have you ever seen the movie Inside Out? I think it's a Pixar film. These little colored characters who have different emotions in this little girl's head, Riley, who moves across country. I cry every time, as does my husband, when we see the movie at the big climactic ending. And it's actually a really beautiful movie to watch with your kids, but even as an adult, it speaks to my heart about mixed emotions, how we think we have to be happy, happy, happy all the time, especially as Christians, right? Sometimes we can get that in our head that I have so much to be grateful for as a Christian. How can I experience any emotion other than intense, rapturous joy all the time? But then you throw in like loneliness, sadness, longing. And sometimes as Christians, we don't really know what to do with it, and we can feel guilty about it. So my first piece of advice and encouragement to you is just to give yourself grace to have mixed emotions. God made the whole range of human emotions, especially the big ones, sad, mad, and glad, as I call them. It's the way I talk about it with my kids, to help them put names to their own emotions. And it's okay to have more than one emotion at a time. They're not necessarily in conflict with each other. As you'll see in the movie, if you haven't seen it yet, I do recommend it. It's okay to feel sad and glad at the same time. Now, of course, if you're feeling really stuck there and you're starting to see some warning signs of, more serious things, that's another talk for another day, of like red flags for more depression or postpartum or something. Today, I'm just talking more about, very relatable loneliness. Step one, it's okay to feel that way. You're not a bad mom because you have mixed feelings on, a given day or a given season of stay-at-home life. So that was number one, was just, realizing it's okay. It's okay that I have these feelings, and this too shall pass, which is my second point of encouragement. When you're in the early years of stay-at-home motherhood, everything is broken up in these like 20-minute increments. Really, it's just like, okay, we're going to have snack time, and then we're going to have Play-Doh time, and then we're going to have go to the park time, which you probably milk that out for as long as you can, right? Depending on the weather. And life is just these short little bits. And the next thing you know, you're just counting down till bedtime. I know, I get it. And I still have little children now. I have a lot of children. I still am like almost perpetually in the season of littles, because my youngest is 2. Like I said, baby's on the way. So I still count down to nap time and bedtime every day without shame or guilt, because I feel like I've earned it, right? Like I'm going to clock out and I can have my evening. So it's understandable that you look at life in small bites. You're not really thinking too far ahead in the future. So the loneliness you may be experiencing in the early years, when it's just you at home with the kids every day, and it can feel like Groundhog Day, honestly, is to recognize this will pass. The season of littles, it doesn't last. It can feel that way though, because honestly, it is like Groundhog Day. That it was, I love this expression. The days are long, but the years are short. So the days are long, these 20-minute, 20-minute, 20-minute. But then next thing you know, you turn around and you're like, oh, look at you. You're using the toilet now. Well, that makes my life easier. Oh, look at you, firstborn or secondborn. You're actually playing nicely with your sibling. And that buys mommy enough time to reheat her coffee for the third time today and maybe finish it while it's still hot. Things do begin to shift. Kids grow. But in the early years, it can be hard to see that, especially if you're kind of new to motherhood and there's so much shifting going on hormonally and emotionally, physically, spiritually. So a word of encouragement to you is like, this too shall pass. You'll always be a mom, but you're not always going to be a young mom, a new mom, an inexperienced mom. You will grow. The children will grow. And the loneliness of feeling like kind of the routine, the repetition of those early years, it's going to pass too. So it's to give yourself some grace and some space for the process to happen. Now, my third and final point is this. It's okay to seek out relationship. I would advise you to be careful who you pick though, because sometimes I know I felt like I was kind of just like, I'll hang out with literally anybody just to take the edge off my loneliness. Like literally any other human being, well, especially a female with other kids showed up at the park. I was like, hello, can we talk? I don't get a lot of adult time. And it's okay to like hang out and make conversation with your neighbors, of course. I would, though, give a word of caution from my own life experience to be careful that maybe the relationships that you develop that become deeper relationships as you go beyond just park talk into spending time in each other's home, becoming more intimate as friends and sharing and letting someone speak into your life. Those are people that, speaking as a Christian mom, I would encourage you to have like less friends that are good and solid and healthy are better than having a lot of friends that maybe are going to drag you down or speak messaging into your life, especially about motherhood and Christianity, that may be very undermining to God's view of motherhood and of children. So it's not like can't hang out with other people unless they're Christians. Just a caution of as you begin to seek out relationship and you begin to get, a bit of flow in your life with nap time and you're going to the park and maybe the weather's getting nice and you start to make some friends, maybe in your neighborhood, I would encourage you to like plug in where you can. And I know it's not always easy because a lot of women work. But as you begin to make some contacts, and it does help take the edge off of loneliness to even have a once a week get together with a girlfriend, right? Just maybe we can have a cup of coffee while the kids play together. Just be wise and discerning in who you maybe really gravitate towards and who you begin to really share your heart with and invite to speak into your life. Because I have seen some women go down some pretty sad and scary roads when they began to really plug in with literally anybody. And I began to see their heart and their mind change towards God and life and motherhood and themselves. And another tale for another day. God is with you. He has blessed you to be the mother of the children that you're with right now. He's chosen you for such a time as this. And I understand the loneliness. It's not going to last. It's not going to be for always because the kids will grow. Be encouraged knowing that God does bring you through seasons and some of them are quieter. And he's preparing you for what's next because you don't necessarily know what's on the horizon, right? God does. It could be that the next season of life has some intensity or some high activity. So though loneliness is loneliness, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it's fun, it does sometimes serve a purpose. It's almost like the seasons in the desert where you go to be alone with God, like Jesus did when he pulled away from the crowds and he was just alone in prayer. I mean, you're alone with your kids, right? But you're never truly alone because you're with God. So I chose to trust him in those seasons when things were a little harder to connect socially, when I did feel a bit stir crazy and lonely. And I trusted that God was with me. And this was a time for me to mature in his grace, to trust that it was okay to feel my feelings. It was okay if I sought out, some opportunities to chill with some other women, being discerning about who I really, really opened up to and received from, and ultimately letting it be a season of preparation for what was next. Because I can tell you this, the early season, it did pass. And then we got into the middle years, which did become very different for me. And I'm grateful, looking back now, that I had some quiet time to get my roots deeper in God. The loneliness was a hard way to do it. It helped. Isn't that funny how God does that? How he uses sometimes the hard stuff to prepare us for what's ahead. So those are my words of encouragement to you today. And before I go, I want to let you know, if you're struggling in these early years of stay-at-home motherhood, you have all kinds of compassion and empathy coming from me. Like I said, those were hard years for me too. I had a lot of junk from my life pre-Jesus because I only got saved when I was 21. So I had a lot of low views of motherhood, a lot of resentment towards God. I didn't just start out embracing the blessing of children and planning to be a big family stay-at-home mom. Quite the opposite. I was kicking and screaming the whole way for the first couple of years. So if you're struggling too, and you feel guilty about that, you want to honor God, you want to embrace children as a blessing, but it's not easy. I want to recommend to you a course that I have on a ridiculous sale right now. It's The Big Family Moms Overcoming the Fear of Having a Big Family. It's part of a 7-part mini series I put together to help and encourage and come alongside other big family moms, 3+ kids, who are struggling with different areas, whether it's home organization, routines and schedules. But the first one is fear. Because if you're really struggling, embracing the blessing of children, and deep down you resent them and you're angry at God and you're kind of starting to scare yourself, this could be a helpful resource to you. So I've linked it in today's video. That's there and available for you. Feel free to check it out and see if that would be a good fit to come alongside you, equip you, encourage you, ground you with some more clarity and some courage for the road ahead so that you can blossom and grow in this season of life in the early years and then on into what God has ahead prepared for you. Like I said, I'm still a full-time stay-at-home mom now. And I joke like no end in sight. Well, of course, I mean, realistically, there's an end in sight. It's called menopause for me, barring major medical complications. But I will be a mom for many years yet at home because, like I said, my youngest is coming out in 7 weeks. So I'm still in the thick of it with the littles. And I sometimes still do feel a sense of loneliness, even with all these people living around me, because I'm actually naturally quite introverted. So I want you to know that God's grace is sufficient for you in this season, just as God's grace is sufficient for me. I love connecting with you in the group, and feel free to check out that course because it really will come alongside you and help you. It's the help I wish I'd had in the early years when I was at home alone, didn't even have like the internet. I think we just barely had like dial up then. So God bless you today. I've got a little bit longer than my usual time, but I did have this on my heart to really come alongside you, equip you and encourage you and give you some resources that I wish I had in the early years when I was super lonely as a stay-at-home mom. God bless you. I'll see you